I love that we end our week each and every week with a beautiful man with a big heart and a beautiful voice. None other than Colm Flynn, of course, a wonderful broadcaster. What are you dancing around for here, mate? You're excited because you've got a story to tell us about the Christian populations in Algeria, mate.
Yes, and hey, Paul, always great to see you. Hello from Rome. If we take me full screen, look at this. I'm in my home studio, ready to chat to you again. Isn't this all for you? Just for you.
Thank you.
We need all these lights to make me look good for your show. But that's right. Paul, you'll remember, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were here live in the programme talking about King Charles meeting Pope Leo XIV. And while you were covering it live from the Vatican on your show, I was commentating with you, but I was on a rooftop in Algeria. Now, we didn't get a chance to talk about Algeria, but the reason I was there is because we were making a fascinating documentary. As you know, we spoke about this before. Pope Leo XIV, he is an Augustinian. That is his religious order. And they're based on the life and the inspiration and the teachings of St. Augustine. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but St. Augustine is from northern Africa, what is now Algeria. So we decided, what's the faith like in Algeria? We know that it was once a Christian hotspot, going way back to the Roman Empire. And then in the 7th century with the Arab conquest, over time that changed. The Christians were driven out. 1962, when Algeria gained independence from France, the last chunk of the Christians left and went back into Europe. So today it is a Muslim country and an Islamic state. There's around 50 million people living there, Paul. And get this, the Christian population, somewhere between 10,000 and 100,000. That represents 0.2% of the population. So our question, Paul, as we went across this beautiful country, we met some wonderful people. What is it like for the Christians and the Catholic Church there today? And there's rumors that Pope Leo will be visiting next year. So it was fascinating to go to all the different cities and meet the bishops, meet the Muslims who converted to Christianity. And, you know, the way you would describe it, Paul, is a nervous church because they have to tread very carefully. While in the constitution of Algeria, they say, hey, no problem. We have religious freedom. You can be a Christian. But in reality, Paul, in practice, it's completely different. I'll give you an example. I was interviewing a bishop. And remember, they had to be very measured what they could say on camera because they don't want to cause problems for themselves. But I said, what's the greatest challenge being here? And he said, probably freedom. And I said, what do you mean by freedom? He said, well, for example, as a bishop, if I want to go from one city to another city in the country, I have to ring the police first, tell them where I'm going, tell them who I'm going to speak to and what we're going to speak about. And then they insist on giving me an escort. Now, they say it's for your safety. And we experienced that too, Paul. I don't know if you've been in a situation when you've been filming abroad. And we didn't even have this earlier this year when we were filming in Iraq. But everywhere we went, and you'll see these beautiful images on your screen, we went to some amazing places. But everywhere we went, ahead of us, before we got there, there were undercover police officers waiting for us who told us, again, they're just here to protect us, to make sure everything was okay. But it changes the dynamic when you're trying to interview people about the faith, when you want them to openly speak and be free in what they say. Having the police close by at every step, it was a huge challenge for us over the 10 days making the documentary. But one man that we did interview, he was a young Muslim, and at 16 he became a Christian, but he was studying to become a lawyer. In the end, he couldn't do it because to become a lawyer in that country, you have to swear in the Quran. So the social pressures like that, his family kind of abandoned him, said it was a tragedy. It was a fascinating trip and very difficult for the small minority of Christians still left there today.
Does it, I mean, obviously, as you say, about that tension, about how they're able to practice. And even though there is that watchful eye, are there relatively recent examples where the watchful eye turns into the clenched fist, or it is just about being constantly watched?
No, it's not a direct persecution like we might have seen years ago with ISIS, 10 years ago in Iraq, but it is the constant presence and the constant watching and the limitations. So, for example, they're allowed practice their faith. But, you know, here in Europe and in Australia, we say you can celebrate the Mass, celebrate your faith. There in Algeria, you cannot celebrate your faith if you are a Christian. If you're a Muslim, yes, no problem. So I interviewed one bishop and I said, you know, in America, they say, hey, I'm on fire for the faith. I want to tell people about Jesus. He said, the bishop, I knew someone like that and I went to visit him in prison. And he kept going out on the street, not trying to convert people, but he was telling Muslims, you know, you should learn about Jesus and come to the church. So the bishop said to him, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You know, here in the country we have our limits. Do not preach the gospel with your words. Do it with your life. You know, act as a Christian." So that's a very difficult position. And some of the, I won't mention names, but high-ranking church officials, before we did the interview, they told us, "Colm, I'll do the interview, but I can't talk about freedom, I can't talk about evangelizing, and I can't talk about conversions as well." So it was a difficult position for everyone to be in. And when we have the documentary made, I will share some of it with you as well, Paul, and all of our friends in Australia.
We look forward to it. That little snippet we saw looked beautiful, and if it is narrated by your good self, it will be even more fun. Thank you, great man. See you soon. Colm Flynn there.
Have a great weekend.
You too, mate. You enjoy. All the best to the family.